A person aimed at a crack in the ice and suddenly thrust out a harpoon. Beneath the water, a huge creature clearly took the hit, and Old Boo quickly pulled the fishing line. But the seal was too large, struggling desperately beneath the ice. Old Boo wanted to call for help, but there was no one around. He had no choice but to muster all his strength to pull the seal out of the water. The seal, in obvious pain, frantically thrashed its tail. Just as Old Boo managed to drag it onto the shore, the cunning seal escaped. Old Boo cursed as he looked at the harpoon. Though he felt frustrated, there was nothing he could do. The next day, Old Boo called upon the most experienced hunters in the tribe. He told Ak that yesterday, right here, he had caught a 500-pound seal. Ak listened and smiled without saying a word. Old Boo continued, saying that there must be a lot of seals around this area, and that today they wouldn't return empty-handed. At this moment, another experienced hunter from the tribe approached with his sled dogs. He smiled bitterly and told Old Boo that if they didn't catch a seal today, going back, he will definitely get scolded by his wife. When Lao Bu and Ake heard that he was afraid of his wife, they both laughed heartily. Lao Biao said that his wife was pregnant again, but their daughter was only a little over a year old and needed someone to take care of her. If he couldn't catch a seal today, it would really be unreasonable. Ake told him not to worry. Anyway, he didn't have a wife, so if he caught a seal, he would share half with Lao Biao. After that, everyone decided to split up because seals, apart from having slightly nearsighted eyes, are very intelligent. They have many breathing holes on the ice. Lao Bu and the others could only confirm that seals were active in this area, but no one could be sure exactly which hole the seal would come up through for air. Fortunately, with the help of the sled dogs, their keen sense of smell could quickly detect the scent of seals lingering on the ice. Soon, with the sled dogs' assistance, everyone found their spots to wait. Lao Bu, with the most experience, led the sled dogs to a raised ice mound, as this area was sealed off, and it was very likely that seals would be present here. Sure enough, the sled dogs had already caught the scent of the seals. Lao Bu took out a deer-bone harpoon and tested the depth of the ice. Then he crouched down to sniff the ice surface, and he was now very sure that seals were definitely nearby. So, he happily called out. Next, he took out a knife and started cutting the ice. Building an ice house is an Inuit skill, so they had already honed their ice-cutting technique to perfection. Then, Lao Bu pulled out a spoon to clear the accumulated snow from the hole. After that, he took a bent deer bone and reached into the small hole to test which direction the seal's breathing hole was in. If he misjudged, today would be a waste of effort. After some searching, he confirmed that the breathing hole was on the far right. Once the snow was mostly cleared, Lao Bu needed to test the thickness of the last layer of ice. If the ice was too thin, the clever seal would easily notice something was off. If the ice was too thick, the harpoon wouldn't be able to pierce the seal's body, and the seal would escape. Lao Bu had to use the harpoon to drag out a reserved hole in the bottom layer of ice, then gently cut the surrounding snow into pieces with the harpoon. In the -50-degree Arctic, Lao Bu's hole was already filling up. To prevent the seal from smelling unusual odors and not daring to come up for air, Lao Bu kicked more snow into the hole. After finishing all this, Lao Bu pulled out the harpoon to reveal the breathing hole. This hole would be his only opportunity to stab the seal. The preparations were almost complete, and Lao Bu led the sled dogs aside to prevent them from barking and scaring the seal. Waiting for a seal on the ice was a very long process. It could take an hour or even a whole day. Lao Bu had to keep warm and dry. He laid seal's skin in the ice pit, then shook off the snow from his feet to prevent himself from freezing. Next, he too, and tried again, but still didn't succeed. It seemed there wasn't enough spit. Lao Bu learned a lot of sewing from his wife, and after some effort, he finally managed to thread the feather through the tiny hole at the tip of the bone. In this way, the small seal detection device was completed. The moment, Lao Bu would have the deadly harpoon in his hand waiting for the seal. Having learned from the last experience when the seal escaped, Lao Bu carefully checked the harpoon. Once he confirmed there were no issues, he laid it horizontally in front of him for easy access. Next came the long wait. At this moment, every place on Lao Bu's body covered with fur was covered in frost. During the waiting period, he had to keep his eyes fixed on the feather at the hole, not leaving it for a second, because the seal would only come up to breathe for a few seconds. If he missed it, all would be in vain. Meanwhile, others in the tribe were also learning from Lao Bu, setting traps at their respective lookout points. Hours passed, and everyone had nothing to show for it, but their eyes never left their spots. The Arctic days are extremely long. Once it gets dark, it would be another wasted day. The temperature was rapidly dropping, and Lao Biao was downwind, having to curl up his body. Even the sled dogs couldn't stand the cold, curling up on the ice, and Adi wasn't much better, frozen with snot running down his nose. He glanced up at Lao Bu in front of him, who had been staring at the seal detector without averting his gaze for a moment, but his hands had already frozen stiff. To prevent the feather from freezing and affecting his judgment, Lao Bu took out a bucket to cover the breathing hole. While he continued to wait, Ake had already caught something. Lao Bu looked up and saw Ake seem to have caught a rather large seal. Before long, Ake walked over with the big seal and told Lao Bu that it was going to get dark soon. If they couldn't wait for a seal, they could go eat at Lao Biao's house together later. Although Lao Bu agreed verbally, he certainly wouldn't give up. Just as Ake was on his way back with the seal, Lao Bu finally safety, he tied the rope around his calf. The rope was made of deer sinew, so there was no worry about it breaking. Since he had been waiting for quite a while, the snow in the hole had already blocked it. Lao Bu had to dig open the hole again to pull the big seal out. To prevent the seal from escaping, he stabbed the seal a few more times through the thin ice. Lao Bu began to try to pull the seal out of the ice, but this seal was simply too large. Finally, Lao Bu took a deep breath and, with all his strength, managed to pull the big seal out. This hefty seal weighed about 200 pounds, enough for Lao Bu's family to eat for a month. On the way back, Lao Bu encountered many others from the tribe returning empty-handed. Everyone chased after him, asking where he had caught such a large one. Lao Bu did not hide anything and told them about his route. However, it was getting late, and it was basically difficult to encounter any more seals. Although everyone was reluctant, they had to prepare to return to the tribe. But before going back, the generous Lao Bu decided to treat everyone to some seal meat. He took out his knife and cut out some fat from the seal to share with everyone. The fat from the seal is the tenderest and most delicious part, showing that Lao Bu was indeed very down-to-earth. In the food-scarce winter, seal meat provides sufficient calories for the Inuit people to withstand the Arctic's coastal temperatures of -70 degrees. Everyone ate happily, and even the sled dogs got to eat some scraps. After Lao Bu brought back the remaining seal, his son and daughter treated it as a toy and happily played with it. But the Arctic is too cold. Any lifeless animal would quickly freeze into ice. Lao Bu's wife had to process the seal as soon as possible. The seal was entirely white, and especially the seal fat could be used as a resource. each seal only produces about half a pound of oil, which is very precious. Although the fat has higher nutritional value and better taste, the Inuit people are reluctant to eat it. When the coldest times of the Arctic arrive, the inside of an ice house can also reach -40 degrees. The Inuit people can only rely on seal oil for warmth. Moreover, during the days when Inuit women experience stomach pains, they can use seal oil to heat water to drink. Additionally, seal skin is also used by them as blankets for warmth. The Inuit people don't have yellow belt cars, nor do they have the pressures of life. So, if I give you $1 million, would you be willing to live in the Arctic?